Meeting in order. Okay, so before we start, Mayor Pete,
All right, I want to introduce our newest finance board member, Smitty Payne. Smitty,
how are you?
so I want you to know, we don't expect you to have all the answers
Oh,
tonight.
really? I'm all set.
You know, just listen and just remember that we're gonna go over this budget like 3 or 4 times before we finalize it.
Okay.
So just absorb as much as you can, ask questions, and when we get to the end, you know, you'll be informed enough to make some good judgments.
Okay.
Okay, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And I think you're a Yankees fan,
No.
the obvious.
All right.
Okay.
We like them anyways.
Good. Okay.
Oh, God.
So we'll get started. We'll do the library first. Who's here from the library? Anybody?
On Zoom.
Hi, I am. Hello,
hi.
I'm Jess. Hi. I'm the
Okay, go ahead.
library director. Hi, everyone. We are coming in with a flat budget request this year. We are maintaining our current level of funding. We've moved some funds around within lines, but we are requesting the same as last year. As far as what we've changed within the budget, we're requesting an increase of 3% for all members of staff. We've eliminated a full-time outreach coordinator position. We've added a part-time adult programming coordinator position. We have a projected health insurance increase of 9.6%. We've moved $5,000 from our print book line to digital resources to reflect current borrowing trends. We have increased our building and grounds repairs by $3,000 to reflect our average annual costs. Gas and electricity has increased by $17,400, and our HVAC contract has increased as well.
So again, it's a flat funded budget from last year.
Yes.
Any questions to Jess?
No,
Okay, Jess, thank you. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Our library is important to us.
Glad to hear it.
Colin, did I just ask you, could you guys just sit up here?
Yep, we'll come out.
Okay. So the people in Zoom land can hear you. You want to do animal control first?
Yeah, that one has a little bit of change to it.
Okay.
All right, so if I could just direct your guys' attention to payroll, you're gonna see the biggest difference on there, on that top line. There is an increase in there due to the change in the labor contract. So previously, the animal control had a part-time animal control officer with full-time benefits. That position has been phased out, and we will be budgeting for a non-union full-time animal control officer. The number or the salary hold that you see in there is a recommendation for a placeholder by Human Resources Director John Lawler. So the recommendation that he had made to at least put that in there to give you guys an idea of where that salary might fall based upon his own analysis by CCM and other salaries. Again, it would be subject to negotiation between the borough and whoever that non-union animal control officer would be in the future. But I felt that's a accurate number. The only other thing that you can see that would be a difference is repairs to buildings. That has to do with some concrete sealing and sealant that needs to be done. There still remains to be some discussion on the back end about where that might be coming from. If it's going to possibly be moved from 5-year or from a capital plan, but that is in there right now, $2,000. Other than that, we hope to stay relatively flat. Obviously, there will be pretty status quo.
You anticipate any, capital requests when we get to the capital budget for animal control?
That is something that still remains under discussion, I think, when we're trying to develop a long-term plan with it, so we
Right.
really don't have a decision yet on that, whether it's gonna need, an entirely new facility or how much we want to invest in that building down there to rehab it at different points, but there's a 5-year, requirement in the state. You have to hit certain, benchmarks in order to get to being a accepted animal control facility, which just recently came out. So I know that our very devoted and very involved animal control officer, Rupsis, has been doing a lot of work, and I think we need a little bit more research, a little bit more to sit here and say whether we want to invest in new building or try to rehab that one. I'm not
We're
prepared.
still trying to do a regional building, right?
That would be an option too, yes. Getting one of our regional towns on board too, so.
That building is very sad.
I know, but I mean, we're not gonna spend a fortune fixing it up if we're going to build a new building, so.
Maybe there's something in the industrial park build,
No, we want tax money.
building that can't be rented.
Yeah,
Well,
so the problem is.
Hold on, slow it down. We don't wanna buy a building. I think what you're saying is there a piece of land in the new industrial park that's not near a residential neighborhood that would work?
Exactly what I said.
And that, we could look at that.
Yeah, I mean, having just toured the facility recently, it's a business. And putting money into that is equivalent to just dumping it in the river. I wanna see a new facility, we gotta figure out how to do it. And I think maybe it's our next borough board meeting, we'll talk about having committees put together, really look at all our options to make that happen, because
I know a good chairman. I know a good chairman.
we can find it. But the amount of money it would probably take to get it, just to make it workable. There's so much broken there. You see bungee cords, holding cages shut.
It's kind of
The-
scary walking through
Yeah.
there.
Sanitation, the way it's set up, the plumbing, the heating, that building needs everything. I can't see how $2,000 would actually, that's like, must be the, keep it from falling down money. That's not enough. But we really take a long hard, whether we use the existing property or find something in our TIF district perhaps, or some kind of creative thinking. But, I had not been in that place since I was in high school.
You know,
It really knocked me out.
does anyone know how many square feet that building is or what we would need?
Well, I think we need a plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Saying
not,
that this would be adequate, because that building isn't adequate. But-
no, I know, but I mean, it's not that big of a building.
No, but I think we need buildings.
It's not enough to do
Large.
with land.
Now look at it. We have everything going on, we don't wanna get to a point where all these properties are used up. You know,
Well, we do
there's a way from-
prefer taxpayers. to
Absolutely.
But, we use the word creative planning to, come up with something. And it would be great if we had a regional project, you know?
The original project be funded somewhat like a probate court,
Yeah,
where we could put a structure in and then have other towns contribute to the annual budget.
so I'm gonna say I think so.
And
Sooner than later.
Is there someone slated to take that role? Was there someone identified at least, or?
So for the full-time animal control officer,
Yeah.
you mean? So we plan to be posting that very soon. I believe, the last, I think the labor end was tidied up in the last day or two. So.
Well, it's non-union, right?
Correct, yes.
So I think that there is someone who is recommended. And I think she currently works for us and everyone loves her. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know who I mean? Brittany?
Yep.
So I think that she's the one that they hope would come.
I didn't know anyone was recommended, but if anyone was, she'd be the one.
Yeah.
From dog people, all I hear is great things about her.
Yeah,
And how she
So-
treats the public.
So would that person essentially be managing this department, or does
No.
this fall under the chief?
it's a division of the police department, but previously it's always been a mixed match of, part-timers. But in the last several years, we've had one of those part-timers, Steve Ruxis, has really embraced his role down there. He's voted, he's very caring about that facility and the animals. So he's, really been spearheading a lot of these initiatives. I think what I'm saying here is that, before I come here and ask you guys for 20,000 for another Band-Aid on the HVAC system, another 10,000 to fix a water pump, we really need to have a step back here and say, do we want to spend, several $100,000, possibly $1 million, whatever that price tag is going to be on a new facility, because every year it seems like something's breaking. And, I don't know if it's kind of like economic times right now, but it's at full capacity. People try to surrender their dogs. If they can't surrender them, they just abandon them. They have, it's full down there with the dogs. They get the infectious diseases, so they'll have to, quarantine and contain them. It's really begun to become a bit of a full-time thing. Most of the time when I was still on patrol, there would maybe be one dog down there, and it was a lost one that someone didn't capture running around.
So with,
You know what I mean, dogs.
so with respect to, sorry, Mayor,
No, go
with
ahead.
respect to, my question regarding if they're like a manager of some sort, like would we be, next year, should we be prepared for a budget from that individual, or would it still come from?
No, Ruxis is gonna run it, right?
Yeah, he still takes lead with it. We take feedback and recommendation from him.
Do you- If you met Steve Ruxis, you would want him to be your guy.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
He works, half of his police hours there and half in the, evidence room at the police department. But 50% of him is a lot. So
And
I
after
mean,
hours, he's there.
yeah, so we get a real bang for our buck with him. He's all in, all dogs, all day.
And a big congratulations to Marilyn after 30 years
There it is, yeah.
retiring.
April 11th will be these last days.
Yeah. So what
It
is
doesn't
it?
say what the square footage is, but it's not.
It's not that big, it's not that.
Probably not the big
I like Charlie's idea of a borough board subcommittee spearheaded by someone wearing a Garnet sweatshirt who loves dogs.
I was glad we went, Rocky, thank you for encouraging us to go.
Yeah.
Really see it firsthand, because that needed to be done, but we had that on the agenda for our next meeting.
Yeah, why don't you, just so I don't forget, call Nancy, tell her I said to put it on, just say,
Discussion.
just say discussion, possible action.
The only other thing I would like to just say on the animal control report, moving on or not, is that operationally, they're very sound. They're very devoted. They're a great group of individuals. They're hardworking, and you saw them down there. They jump through hoops to make sure all of those animals, not just the dogs, the cats, they sometimes get some crazy exotic animals, but they are the most devoted, caring people, and they do what they do because they're very passionate. And what we're discussing now isn't an operational issue. It isn't their ability to go out and care for these animals. It's giving them the support and the resources and the actual infrastructure to do that. So the building is one thing, but operationally, they are, like I said, they go in there 24 hours a day. They're feeding them the vets, they're getting them care, they're getting donations, they're doing everything they can. So I don't want to at all seem like we're taking away from what they're doing. It's just getting them a facility, a building that does them the justice that I think that they do.
So do they have a budget? Because I didn't see a line item when I looked at the police budget. I know that's.
It's a separate budget.
Separate.
It's separate.
Separate, completely separate.
Yeah, B27.
Okay, thank you. So, because there's a couple of things that are pretty egregious in there that should be addressed because it's.
So that's capital, that we discussed that when we do capital, not in their regular
I'm
budget.
not talking about the building.
Okay,
I'm talking about, you've got medications in a cabinet that looks like something my mother used to keep her soap in 1970. And no lock at all. That's just terrible. That's not okay. And you've got cages that are, well, they're not appropriate for animals at this time. They're not up to the standards for now. And they're also held together by ropes.
I think you're a good addition to the subcommittee.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, seriously, it's, there's liabilities that are waiting to happen with the condition of the equipment in that building, which is why I asked about the budget, I'm sorry, I didn't know, but there should be some things that are regularly being replenished, because those cages were okay in probably 1980. They're not okay now, and if
So
somebody's gonna get. full.
someone, you should talk to Stephen Rupsis, and they should present to us what they need, and then we, finance it. But, for me, I'm all in for the dogs, so, it's an easy sell for me. So I like the idea of a subcommittee, new facility, try and make it regional if we can. And if we can't, we'll do the best we can.
Hey, Kyle, I know that the regional concept came up years ago. Is there any other towns that would be interested in going with us on that?
So it's kind of changes a little bit, you know, it's been based upon which municipality kind of has issues, maybe not issues, so, I think our strongest partners in the past have been Middlebury and Falls. Those would probably be the closest ones. I'm not sure if Beacon Falls and Prospect are currently sharing one. I would have to check on that, but
He didn't indicate that they were sharing anybody else.
it's possible.
But don't forget, they don't touch each other, but they both touch us, so it's like perfect.
We have a great grant writer.
Curiosity, how many, animals are stored?
Yeah. Oh, you guys, Colin? Oh, Sam, I got a question for you.
Quick question, just out of curiosity, how many animals? You know, kept there?
Yeah, I think it depends if they can.
Yeah,
double
think
them
how
up
many
or not.
reasons.
There was a while there where they couldn't double any.
Yeah.
animals. Like overflowing it.
How many
I
cages
saw
were
12
I
dogs.
think there was 18 cages, but some of them were broken.
16 dogs that leave what they have in there at the moment, and
I was
that's
gonna say, I saw you.
Two of them are full mastiffs. The space for 3 dogs.
Scared the hell out of me.
I wanted
They
them
can have
all.
whatever space they want.
Oh, that's our solution. Dropping at Rocky. So Chief,
I think I've been there.
Chief, should we expect any major changes before the end of this budget cycle based on hiring this new person and more detail to come? Or do you think this is pretty solidified for this cycle?
this cycle right here, this budget is representative of hiring that new full-time.
Right.
As far as there's a minor increase here with the facilities, to address some immediate things, $2,000, but large term capital, that's gonna be a decision that I think we're gonna have to take back or subcommittee report. It's too much beyond me bringing and saying we need a new HVAC system. It's beyond that. It's, do we need a new building? If so, where? Outside of, I think, my purview is going to be presented to your budget or capital. So, it needs to, how that would happen, just.
You're asking about the personnel, that's,
Just this budget specifically.
oh,
Do we anticipate any major changes?
no, because I think
Uh,
her, if we did go with Brittany, the girl, and her rate would be effective on July 1, so it would
Okay.
affect now, it'll be effective.
Excellent.
Okay,
Move
any more questions for animal control? Okay, PD, you're up.
No, there's no.
So if you guys are okay with this, what I'll do is I'll walk you down to the description and the major line items. And if you need to break it down, I think such a glad to do that. It seems like that was most effective over the time. I know the target was 2.5%, and I believe when you take into account the fact that we have two of our unions, not the police one, but the white collar union and the dispatcher unions, which were 2 years out of contract. So when you take into account the retro raises, you are actually seeing a contractual increase in 2 years we have to account for. If you take that out, we're around 1.98%, and those numbers came from Allison actually. So the biggest increase is through payroll, which is contractual. It's pretty much is what it is.
So normally it would have been half of what it is, but you have 2 years in there instead of 1.
Correct, so if you see in the department notes, Allison did those calculations for you to show what the difference was. It's just, we showed a bigger jump because 2 of our unions were out of contract and they had to go back and make those adjustments retroactively, so it shows, a bigger jump.
So let's talk about that because we have some new members. So in the budget last year, we have a separate line item for anticipated raises. So the money was in another account, not the police account. So that money will not be budgeted this year. So there's a 2-year increase showing here, but we are not gonna budget for anticipated wage increases except for the fire department. Last year, we had all the unions except the fire department were included in the budget. This year, you're gonna see the actual differences from what we did, and then we're projecting for the firemen. And we will not be putting money for that wage, townwide union wage increases.
If anyone does anyone have any questions on payroll? based on that?
On payroll, I think we're all set on payroll. I mean, you see that with the unions, sometimes you have good years, sometimes you have years you gotta do retroactive, so it all balances out, so.
And just, Ken, one more thing to point out to you in payroll, there is a 61st officer in there. That officer is, I say it's like quasi contractual, it was a give back. The union phased out last year an administrative officer. The administrative officer literally changed the ink cartridges, paperwork, like did clerical work. And since my tenure has begun, I've been very big, I want police officers doing police work. So we negotiated with the union to give that position back into an operational role. However, we budgeted for the 61st officer, which is the SRO at the high school. A little bit of backstory on that. In 2007, when they first began the SRO program, that officer has always counted toward day shifts, minimum manpower. So technically, not common, but it does happen in a couple weeks. That officer has to get broken from the school to go take a traffic crash, respond to backup officers on like a burglar alarm or something. It's not an ideal situation. And part of the school safety initiative we've been funding for the last several years, which was the City Hill SRO, and then the third SRO, which is both one dedicated to the elementary schools at Rogues, this is the final piece of that school safety, is getting that officer to be dedicated solely to school safety and moving that officer off of minimum manpower. So it's a minimal amount of the increase here. It isn't with the split. It's still as the other ones are funded. However, like I said, there might be some side discussions on whether that
Is Board of Ed doing 50% of that?
that is how we budgeted it, but like I said,
I haven't seen their budget yet, so.
yeah, so it is currently budgeted as the other 2 ones are, which is a cost share between the, but previously we fully funded another officer. So
Okay.
that's the biggest change. And like I said, it's contractual, but it isn't in the sense that the union gave up the position and we told them we need budget to sit down with it. So we're kind of paying the piper now for something that we gave back over this September. So, if you're good with it, we'll go to part-time. Obviously, we've seen the raises with minimum wage increases. We have, again, that clerical position I talked to you about with a police officer doing clerical work and stuff. We are paying a clerk now basically $20 an hour to do what we would think a police officer to do. So that is in there, as well as we've moved into part-time. We had budgeted for a second social worker. Instead, what we're doing is we're taking that money and we're budgeting for interns, social worker interns. So out of Central Connecticut, Quinnipiac, and we're paying them about $20-25 an hour, and they work half their week unpaid, the other half under the supervision of our social worker as an intern. So that's what that's funding. I've had some good luck with these interns. We're also looking at maybe taking some of that intern money that you're seeing through part-time and hiring or interning a crime analysis through either Post University or one of the neighboring colleges to try to crunch some of our numbers to come up with some crime strategy, crime analysis. So that's all covered in there. But the biggest increase you're seeing is a transfer from police professional services to part-time. So
Kyle, what's the police service technician?
essentially, a clerk that's oriented towards law enforcement. So they're doing health tickets on our CAD RMS system. Like I said, changing the ink toner.
That's that person that.
Yes, very
Okay.
low level. I hate to say it's IT stuff because it's not. It's
Yeah.
it's
Support functions.
yeah,
Administrative support.
functions, kind of basically an aid to the administrative lieutenant and doing a lot of
Okay.
things, updating phone lists, spreadsheets, that type of stuff, internal things. And it's something this one officer used to do. So
Not too much.
Has there been any more talk regarding potential of bringing the dispatchers between the police and the fire together? So we have like one centralized dispatch?
yes, so we have a current study going that is due to come back, I believe April 15th is our deadline for our architect to give us a physical study or analysis of what that would be to consolidate the building. Deputy Chief Nork has lead on that, and I plan to bring forward his final report on a couple different options for that and cost analysis for.
Excellent.
That is underway.
Is there anything in here for, I don't know what your time frame is for moving the dispatchers?
That would be separate with a full package that we present of how much that would be. So some of that, as you know, tied up in labor negotiations, but the actual physical capital for the construction will be part of that study that we have, like I said, should be done by April 15th.
Thank you.
And is there any option, and this is kind of cart before the horse, but is there any option to like regionalize that dispatch so we can handle like calls for other municipalities around us? Or is there,
Yes,
like, expansion
so
or growth, like,
I
built
plan
into
to
it?
present 2 to 3 different options
Okay.
for you and cost all of this out. and have that. So.
Complicated question.
It's very complicated.
Yeah. And the other problem
What?
is that our radio infrastructure is also tied into that, which is coming off of contract in 2 years. So when you guys see, as we go down some of these, you're gonna see that we're in year 5 out of 6, I believe, of our Norcom contract for our radios. That's a $600,000 6-year contract. We're going to have to negotiate that again. So we're trying to determine something with the fire department, the ambulance, to try to consolidate our radio system, like the state system, all these different options out there. Because currently, as we all have our own dispatch center, we all have our own radio system too. So if we could get
Yeah.
one radio system and a set series of different channels, then we'll all be paying, it would be a substantial cost saving.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we have going on behind the scenes. That's probably your biggest long-term cost savings would be consolidation and communications.
Thank you.
Is it reasonable to think that your dispatch is sort of regionalized? That feels like a lot of territory covered by one call center.
So what's in this connection? We have 3 dispatch centers. EMS is at Northwest Public Safety, fire is at the firehouse, and police department is obviously with us.
Right.
So we're looking at a couple different models. The lowest hanging fruit version of that would be that we would upgrade the police department in one of our larger rooms and consolidate fire and police into one centralized location, so you would be duplicating the hardware in 2 separate locations.
Right,
That
that
would
makes
be
sense to me.
The
Yeah.
lowest, but there's a couple different versions of that, and we're trying to run out the cost to present that.
Okay, so when you say regionalized, you're not saying we're gonna go into Beacon Falls and,
No, with
Prospect.
Northwest in Waterbury.
Yes.
Northwest.
yeah, okay, I don't know which towns it is, I know which ones they are from Washington, Connecticut.
Yeah, it's like Waterbury, Prospect, Naugatuck, a few
That
towns that
feels
are close.
good. I'm just asking if that's a practical application, because that's a lot of territory.
So having a cost to see what that would be is what my goal is to present, because it is an option, like I said, and that's also part of regionalization. There is a $300,000 consolidation grant, which will cover a lot of infrastructure changes and everything.
Right.
So I really want to make sure that that's a separate thing that you guys have for, really your analysis to look at it, see what's long term. Because these are 5, 6 year, 10-year long term things outside of our current operation.
Without a doubt, I'm not as concerned about the cost, is it a feasible plan? Do you lose too much autonomy, to save a little bit of money? That would concern me, because you have people that wanna respond in a timely fashion and wanna respond to the dispatcher who knows what the needs of the community are. So now you're turning it into 3, 4, 5 communities. I'm just asking, I've never done law enforcement, so I'm not pretending I know the answer, but I think it's an important question to be asked. Because even if it saves money, I don't want you to lose autonomy, and I don't want us to lose the timeliness.
Yeah,
I know I'm
so
not supposed to say I don't care about.
we were never thinking of that, okay, so you don't have to worry about that, but if there's a way to, let's say blend police and fire together, that would be helpful.
That
The
makes sense.
ambulance dispatch and police dispatch, which has mental health, require a lot more people. So that's really, it's hard, and there's union issues, there's state issues. The states keeps telling us they're gonna give money to have towns solve these types of problems, but they never do, so there's a lot of moving parts.
Look, Kim, if you're interested, I'm sure the invitation to the Collin, go see his dispatch center, come see mine over at the firehouse. And then if you're really interested, there's always a trip to the Northwest and Waterbury, which is incredible. So,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
You should watch that up there in Northwest, it's interesting.
it's like mission control up there. It's like,
Yeah.
it's amazing.
The next field trip.
Yeah, thank you. Whenever you're ready.
Right. Oh, good Lord.
Got you.
Going down to overtime, at this point, I am going to keep overtime flat. The reason being that, hoping we will be fully at staff by July. We currently have 3 officers on recruit training in the field, 1 in the academy, 3 at the Waterbury Academy, 2 slated to go to Meriden in April, and 3-ish, hopefully going, maybe 4, if we can get them, to Waterbury in May. That will take care of our hires or our projected retirements for the next year and the addition of 61st officers. So while there might be a little bit of an impact in terms of the salary, front loading a bit, it will hopefully, when Katie and I were doing the budget last year, prior to the early retirements, we were hitting our overtime targets every week, coming well under. So we're gonna try it this way. We'll see, but I think that if we can keep it full staff, we were seeing our overtime numbers coming very low, but it's just keeping us at staff. We don't have attrition since we have officers lateraling. It's just they retire because it's a 20-year retirement, they can buy back at 17. So, but weirdly enough, we have not had an issue recruiting. We have a list of officers that want to come here. We've had good luck with.
That's not weird, that's you guys doing a good job,
Yes.
you wanna come here.
Yeah, we're doing all right with our recruitment. It's just, if I do entry level, it's 12, 14 months to get an officer online. So that's what you're seeing with this, is that we have to project out, and the early hiring has been a game changer in us, of trying to do that. So with that said, we're looking at keeping the overtime flat. School allowance, as you know, that is one of our incentives. While very small number of officers take advantage of this, we do offer tuition reimbursement to our officers for college level courses and degrees that are police related. That again has been for the amount of money that we spend, it's been a huge retention issue, recruitment issue. So we're keeping that flat. That seems to be reasonable. Clothing allowances for first issues. Again, most of our hiring is going to be in this fiscal year, which I've been working closely with Allison with to address the overages that we're hiring that we have to do first issue this fiscal year. So I don't anticipate a big change in first issues. That's the uniforms that are loaned out that they get contractually. education increment, that is, staying status quo. What that is the officers get a stipend for having a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Longevity, as you can see here, we have a much younger police department, so, it's a little bit, say, a little bit lower, but our longevity is about the same. Now what you're gonna see here, professional services, you're seeing that $45,000 difference in that account, because we moved it over to part-time. So we're doing part-time employees, as opposed to us trying to subcontract the second social worker. That model did not work out last fiscal year, so I'm just moving it into the account.
So Kyle, so right now you have Sherry and then a couple of interns.
Yeah, we have one intern
One
who's
intern.
been there, and they have to do with, a substantial amount of actual field work to get their degrees.
So you have the intern for duration. It's not they're coming in for a week and leaving.
Yeah, no, they're there for like 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Probably didn't finish out her degree.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's been great. We've been able to, very fortunate to get.
I can tell from my experience, that program has been phenomenal. It's been, the outreach is done for people.
She does a great job. She's been a game changer. I mean, what she does the work. I fix people. So I can't say nothing about that
Chief,
program.
do you anticipate the need for an additional full-time social worker?
So originally, we were looking at doing that through subcontracting, possibly through, like, say, Stokes, who we originally worked with. And, because Stokes' practice has grown so much, really didn't want to commit to getting us a second social worker because there's a lot of, I guess, clinical oversight that comes in with it. So he kind of backed away and said it just wasn't a successful model for him. So we took a step back and looked at this intern program. So now Sherry has the interns who are working essentially unpaid for 10, 20 hours a week and paid for up to 19 hours. It's been a huge cost saving. So I didn't want to do anything until Sherry knows that she has enough help. And she feels that the interns are doing the lower level things that were bogging her down. So this has been helpful. So at least for this year, I feel this program's with the interns is working without adding one. And we're also working with Naugatuck Youth Services to use opioid funds to take on a recovery coach. So while it may seem like we don't have a second social worker, we actually have the intern, and then we hope to have a recovery coach, and they'll all be working closely with Sherry. So we're actually getting 2 additional support positions within the community overall. And the recovery coach working out of youth services will be a better fit because you're dealing with a lot of people with substance abuse disorder, and having it out of the police department gets a little bit of a conflict of interest. It makes people sometimes uncomfortable when they're looking for help. So we found that outsourcing it to youth services seems like a better fit. And when we encounter somebody who would fit in that program, Sherry can transfer that over. So
My concern with it, and you have Sherry do a phenomenal job and is stretched all over the place. Just, I don't want to see her get burned out. And now we're back.
Hey, I forgot, are we getting 1 or 2 recovery coaches?
not sure. I think they were looking at one based on the.
I thought they were getting 2.
It's, I think it was whether or not they're gonna have to split the money between 2 part-time or 1
That
full-time.
might be it, but
When I spoke to Sherry, it sounded like it'd be a 20-hour thing. So
so 2 20-hour
I
people.
believe so. But I'm
Yeah.
not confident.
That's what I thought, but I'm not sure.
We're kind of ironing out the details last. Seems like that'll be enough support, like you said, Frank. We were concerned about that too. I check in with Sherry all the time because I'm like, I don't want to burn you out. So is this enough? But the answering the phone calls, the walking somebody through getting their social security card or getting, that's the stuff the interns can do and go over somebody's health and help them get connected with services. And she's dealing with a lot of the much more complex mental health issues and stuff.
Just listen to her. It's almost like a whack-a-mole. She's over here, she's over here, she's over here, she's over there.
She's doing a lot internally too.
Yeah.
She's great, yeah.
Are the interns working towards massive or just like?
They are BSW, so they're going to the 4-year degree, but they have to work under her.
So are they working towards MSW?
They're working towards that. So I have to put it together. Let's see. Moving down to legal defense fund, that is contractual, like insurance the union has. Community outreach, so just to clarify, this account used to be known as DARE. We, as you know, have not had the best luck with DARE, but we used to budget to cover DARE, but this is more appropriately called the Community Outreach Fund. So what we do is this goes towards like our National Night Out, a lot of our outreach events that we do with the youth in the community, and it's a little bit more, it gives the office a little bit more leeway. So we're looking to do like a 1 week youth summer camp with 6th to 7th graders. I think is a target date this August, but that money will be used to fund that position. So it gives us a little bit more leeway to use that money for things that DARE was just, that's all it strictly was. By no means would I say we're looking to like not engage in the schools, but the model of how we're doing that has changed, and I don't want us to necessarily back us into a corner with just a DARE program. And then having the 3 SROs has helped us get more time in the schools in a different way, because the DARE program was, again, nothing bad about it. It's just very structured. The idea was you get a police officer in a classroom, but we're getting that now in the elementary school coverage, the middle school with Officer Miranda, and obviously the high school. So it's a little bit less narrow in how we use that. But if you have any questions, we're just keeping that flat.
Sorry, a question for you with the community outreach. Is there an opportunity there? I mean, I went through DARE in like 5th grade. Definitely learned a lot about all the drugs, and they brought the case, and it was, you learned a lot. Is there an opportunity? I think there might be less need for that, but more need on vaping. Is there opportunity to kind of like do a DARE styled component with maybe the SROs or this community fund to help combat?
So I think that like anything specific like that, it allows us to work with the administration of the school to address that. So if they feel, for example, that they want us to work with them in partnership for vaping or something, we can come up with a curriculum for that. We can have the officers work with the school staff.
So it's the school coming to you.
Yes,
right?
Generally, what are their needs that we can try to meet with them. So, one of the big things is we're seeing, there might be certain businesses that sell vaping, alcohol, even THC products to underage kids, and then the school can come to us and kind of address that through proactive stuff. So it's a little bit more of a custom tailoring what the approach is. For example, this summer, 1 week summer program that we were looking to do, that came from the school. They're like, can you engage with 6th and 7th graders? They're like, would this model work? It's something Florence going to use. So I don't know if it will, but we'll try it. If it doesn't work, we'll go back to the drawing board and try something else. So that's why it's kept very, vague, and it's line item. The next one, this is our other big increase here, is training and service school. So as you guys know, we had 8 retirements last year and this year, and into early of this calendar year, basically. Beginning in May, June, no, they all went on. So we've had 8 retirements. I have a young police department, new command staff. That is an accurate reflection in the increased amount of money that we can train. The other problem is that, I spoke to this in previous budget sessions, is that the state no longer subsidizes police officer training. So when I first started, what we would do is at the police academy, once you were done at the police academy, they would have accident class, which would be advanced beyond that 1, 2, 3. They would have crime scene processing, interview and interrogation, crime scene photography. And it was an incremental. It was $100, $200 per officer. They've cut all of that in-service training, so now we have to fund everything ourselves by sending officers, and unfortunately, we have to go out of state a lot of times. We try to keep it within the region, but they have to go to Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, New York to get these same classes that you used to get at Meriden for $100. So that's been a huge driver, and then some of the command level classes for some of my staff would they're great, they work hard, they're eager, they want to do the best they can do, but there is a little bit on their end that we're trying to catch them up in terms of the amount of training they have. Police Executive Research Forum is something that we're sending all our command staff to. Some of the command schools, those are a little bit more pricey. They're getting to $1,000, $2,000 ranges. And then, like I said, just the basic classes of replacing those retirements. So that's where you're seeing this biggest increase of the young police department. And again, that is very accurate because we have to pay for those classes this budget cycle, which again, working with Allison, I have an overage in that account, so I don't want to come here and seem like I'm disingenuous that I'm gonna lowball you and I know that it's gonna be a big increase.
The state stop subsidized.
When they reconfigured Department of Emergency Services, probably, I think it was under Governor Malloy, it was probably mid 2010s or so. So it used to be Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, and now it's DEP, so they reconfigured it, so,
And Colin, that was the same time they stopped reimbursing for the fire recruits also.
Yeah.
We used to get that money back.
it was the same thing, because
Same boat.
fire recruits, and we have to actually charge us now, police academy. So that's another thing, it's about $4,000. We try to work well with our regional partners, but there's no free lunch, so sending them to the recruits in Waterbury, they've given us unlimited seats, but we've had to temporarily assign our training officer as part of the cadre in Waterbury at their academy. But we save money because we don't pay $4,000 per recruit, but he obviously was stationed up there and was kind of back and forth, so we're doing the best we can with it, but there's a lot, we're making it up in the sense of trying to figure it out, basically, to the changing dynamic that we have, so. Yes. Yeah, we do send our officers for more training than a lot of other police departments, which again, the education incentive is, I've taken some officers from city police departments with 5 years on, 6 years on, and they have not been to any class other than the trip, so. We'll send them to an accident class, we'll send them to, a photography class, and they really do seem to like that. And $1,000 class out of the $50,000-$60,000 it costs to recruit and train an officer is, so, money well
What
spent.
did you say, facilities with that?
Oh, like, at the police academy or,
With those extra trainings?
so they used to be held at the police academy,
Yeah.
but now we have to go with outside, so third party.
It's like private. companies.
Yeah, but there's like, FBI lead is one that we work well with. They have like a command tower, they have a 3-module for supervisors, 1, 2, 3 accident classes, 2 vendors that are recognized nationally. So those ones, so it's generally a small group of vendors. We try to avoid, they're 370 so often, we might get retired detective, well-known, starts like a class. But generally we're going with recognized relationship.
Those guys.
Yeah.
I'm sure, setting the record with you.
I guess it's, there's trying to target the certain ones that are like consistent, so hence why we can get that up to show how much it is. Moving forward, conferences, generally that's coming out of, for a couple of the national conferences that the deputy chief and I will go to, one of them being in Boston, so it'll be a little cheaper this year. Traffic lights, as you know, the borough owns several of its traffic lights. This is a fair assessment, but if one of them breaks, it could be $500, it could be $5,000. So we can keep this number and we hope for the best with it.
This one out here takes a long time. I blow through it all the time. Oh, did I say that out loud?
You're not the only one.
Traffic signs, that's the same thing as, we're part of the traffic authority, so we're responsible for stop signs and speed signs, and that's being kept the same.
I don't think we should fund stuff. It's a total waste of money. It's just a suggestion.
We need the big flashy one. Those are $2,000.
We should just roundabouts.
Same.
That's what roundabouts are.
At every intersection.
Every intersection.
Terrible.
Next.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go on.
Moving right along.
Maintenance, building and grounds, we're keeping that flat. I do have some capital building things that we'll keep in there, but taking outside the bigger things, our building and maintenance should be flat outside of these issues that break consistently, air handlers, water pumps, these types of things. So, the day-to-day maintenance stuff is pretty much flat.
And Kyle, assuming with the reconfiguration plan, it's also HVAC upgrades and, did you have that?
Yes. Yeah, that will be part of it. We'll be attracted,
Under, maintenance of equipment, there's generators there. Should those be moved? Didn't we say we're gonna put those under
Isn't that going under the general?
another category?
On what?
townwide.
What,
No,
well,
those
what,
are for, you're seeing it under like the itemized,
Under maintenance of generators.
yeah, AJ generator.
Yeah.
That's the contractor, that's just for the 1 year agreement, we kept it in there, we did talk to them.
Yeah, maintenance
When
of
we-
load testing.
Yeah, the load testing is part of accreditation, so that has to be in there.
Well, I'm not saying
on
take it
top-
away,
No, on top
just-
of like,
just to move it to another section of the budget.
yeah, so we had a long discussion with Alex, and she said, leave it in there, to see if you might be pursuing that. And she said, leave it in there, just show it, but. she may
Yeah,
not
we can
move it.
transfer it over to that townwide maintenance plan.
Got it.
And also, which will be in the capital, is if we purchase a new generator, we plan to contract in a 5-year maintenance plan, which will
No,
take.
that's fine, thank you, I just know we're moving those.
Felix said he can't put it out until next month. So we will see any return on that. It'll be for everyone.
Repairs to motor vehicles, there has been a pleasant trend in this with our fleet being a little bit newer and more well maintained and under warranty. We've been in pretty good shape with the repairs to motor vehicles. As you know, in previous years, when the fleet ages, we would be spending a lot of money on that, but, this was also, again, part of Allison and I's strategy, trying to get the fleet vehicles off the line before they start getting out of warranty, and breaking, and getting them to roll where they are.
And sometimes they go to other departments, so the other department doesn't have to spend money.
Well, and it's also, they're not doing the idle time, they're not doing the same, these cars will run, the evening shift officer will take it, and then, a night shift officer, and we'll try to get one shift off for the car to rest, but, if it's just doing a 40-hour work week in another administrative department, it can prolong its life.
Yeah.
So, tires, we're keeping that flat, car rental, I know,
Tires flat.
there's a car rental.
So Fran and I always laugh when car rental comes up.
Yeah, this is all, every year we get a question about car rental, but what that is, occasionally we do, the detectives do a short-term rental for like undercover operations. We've also had to rent, God forbid, a line of duty fuel or something. We rent a bus. So it's been, we kept that flat, it comes up.
Do you wanna say this one, me too?
So, Fran, you go ahead. We take turns in this one every year.
This goes back 15, 20 years ago,
No,
when, we used to have a group of individuals. Group of members, but especially the police. And when it came to car rental, this one individual, I remember was at the high school, got up and down and said, why do you need car rental? Someone explained, as you do, sometimes you need it for undercover work. And she said, well, I've never seen them using it. Case closed. Yeah, this is working.
Chief's expense account, that's flat, postage, flat with that, department supplies, flat, cleaning supplies, flat, medical supplies, was flat, and then so we're going up in the, oh, I'm sorry, the medical bag replacements is up on that, we are buying new jump bags for our officers. The ones we have are a little old, outdated. I think they're getting the backpack ones, that's what.
Yeah,
So
they're
they're
like
getting,
falling apart.
yeah, so they're getting backpack ones. that's it. What else? Prisoner expenses, prisoner meals, photo, Verifax supplies, that's, flat, general, that's flat, it's, investigations. Canine maintenance, we're flat with that. Firearms.
How many dogs do we have now? Canines?
So we have 2 labs, and the German Shepherd we just recently purchased is currently at the State Police Academy with Officer Gelati. They're anticipating to graduate in May. So that canine will be out then. So we'll be back online with patrol canine. So as you know, Indy's our comfort dog, and then we have the second canine, which is Judge, which is paired with Sergeant Pino, and that does narcotics and missing persons detection, tracking, and then third canine will be a patrol dog, which will be online in May, and that will be patrol work, so tracking, could bite if necessary. And our goal is next year to send that same dog for firearms recovery, because the drug, we haven't had as much use of narcotics detection, but I feel that firearms detection is what we've been using, and relying on Waterbury and some of our neighbor state police to do that. So the new standard is they can detect if there's a firearm present or if it's concealed, and we get that on a lot of traffic stops or scenes where we think the suspect may have discarded or thrown the firearm. So that's again part of the long-term plan for canines. There's no cost to that other than the personnel for the position where they're out.
Who's gonna handle that dog?
Officer Michael Gelati, he's currently in the academy now for it, so. He was temporarily at the school too for a while, as SRO, they shipped up. Yeah, he's a transfer from Waterbury, so.
No, I know the dog is probably doing the housekeeping.
He got his hands full over there, so.
That's for sure.
They couldn't speak any English, it came from the, Slovakia. So, yeah. Yeah, they couldn't do it.
What else possibly go wrong?
Sort of house.
So that's what they do, so the bad guys don't know what they're saying. Really? They'll do it in German or?
What else do we have here? Firearms, so you're seeing an increase in, ammo go up. The state contract is ending, I believe, this month or next month. We made our order already preemptively, to lock ourselves in, but some of the other smaller, ammunition is going up, so. This year, we should be good with an incremental increase here compared to what it is, but stay tuned next year. I think the state contract is being negotiated to, 30, 40%, 50% increases in ammunition are, gonna try to impact next year, but we're in good shape for this.
I paid like 450 for 1,000 rounds of ammo. Crazy.
Evidence collection, that's flat. J lines, that's, line painting. I believe we're going into year 2 of that contract, maybe? Okay, we work with accounting on that, going up to bid for that. Equipment, you're gonna see a little bit of an increase in this with the ballistic vests. So in addition to the prices going up on the ballistic vests with inflation, we are also switching to a vest, which is probably $300 to $400 more. However, the vest has an 8-year shelf life compared to the current ones we're using, which have a 5-year shelf life. So initially, there will be a little bit of a increase, but contractually, we replace the officer's ballistic vests when they're expired. So this vendor has an 8-year shelf life. The officers wore it, they feel it gives them more, for the several $100s more, gives them more increased protection and increased level of armor, and it's more comfortable for them. So we're transitioning to that. So we have to replace the officer's vest, not only the first hire, but also when it expires. So I think this accounts for the 10 or so that they'll replace next year. But that's why you're seeing the increase there. And then, dues, $19 increase. And I'll entertain any other questions you guys have specifically on any breakouts or anything else like that. But I think I've walked you guys through what the main issues were and the increases.
There was a question last week on the license plate reader cameras. Colin did send an email to Jim Kay. I forwarded out to the finance board today. Question on that.
Yeah, Diane, who's not here,
that she was not gonna be here this week.
Right. I didn't see she was up there. Yeah.
She's out of state this week.
Does anyone have any follow questions on those? Like, we deployed them, and I know in the email, like I said, I cited some very specific cases. Those have been game changers in our violent crime investigations. So, we reacted to the change of the legislation, but we need to be more passive in how we try to do that. I know the legislators looking at putting limits on data retention. So it's not like the retention will be there forever, or we're looking to intrude on people's, privacy. But we had a shooting, we detected people back and look, less 72 hours, less 30 days, movements of vehicles, and try to piece together movements.
Have a comment.
Good. Mayor has a comment.
Well, when Colin's done.
Okay.
No, it's, they're flagged solely on, usually the most violent offenders we put on to the regional, and they can talk to us.
You ask Facebook, they think it's like, they're looking for people that, did pay their taxes.
It's a good thing we don't look.
John Collin, I remember when you presented to the board and heard you use force multiplier. It gives you guys the ability to become more of a town and effective and efficient. That's investment.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it's in the fourth.
Hey, Colin, I think Mayor had a question for you.
Are you done?
Well, okay.
I just want for Smitty, and even for any new people who don't know, when we do the budget in Naugatuck, we go through every line item and make a budget. In other words, most towns, the mayor or somebody makes a budget and says, here it is, what do you think? We don't do that. We make our budget from scratch as a group. So the finance board actually makes the budget. Then they present it to the joint boards, which includes the Burgesses. And then together, 20 people adopt the budget. It's actually zero-based budgeting. And it's what everyone says ought to be done. And I don't think, I'll bet you that not 2% of the people in Naugatuck know that that's how we do it, which is based on our charter, really. So it's, I think it's a good system. It takes longer, but it's good. And then you'll see, as we go through this, you're gonna see these same numbers, what, like 4 times, Rocky? Something like that. Yeah.
So this is a 10,000 foot overview of the budget.
The idea is, saying, we've only just.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, that's not the song.
Okay, anything else for Chief McAllister?
Did we get the Zello computer going?
Okay, with that, we'll adjourn the meeting at 7:33.
Thank you.
Thank you. Steve.
Nice job.